Yo, so what are the best controller settings for Warzone? Well, that's the reason you clicked on the video, and we're going to go through some of those settings right now. We'll also be going through some Windows changes that you can do, and we'll be looking at different software that you can try out as well to overclock your controller and just have a better understanding of what some of the settings do as well. If you are interested in getting a bit more FPS, I'll link a video in the top right card that'll take you to my FPS video. If you're interested in getting better at Warzone, some of the tips you can use to get better, I'll also link that in the cards on the top right. Or at the end of the video, they'll be on the end screen. So stick around, let's go through some of this, and let's try to figure out what the best controller settings are. Cool, so starting off the video, we're going to do some of the in-game settings first, and what I will say off the rip is that some of it is just personal preference. For example, the sensitivity you play on might change on your mode, who you are, what controller you use. It is all personal preference. What I'm going off is what my history of competitive COD has taught me and what I'm comfortable with using and what's best for Caldera, Rebirth, and what I'm most comfortable with and what I'm best with. And that honestly is the best advice I can give you, is use your settings that make you the most comfortable and, happiest when you're playing, which is hard to do in Warzone, I know, but use the settings that make you comfortable in the sticks. So if you play 10-10 normally, don't swap down to 7-7 just because I've said so. Play 10-10 if that's what you're comfortable with. But let's start going through them, let's stop waffling, and yeah. So, first things first, button layout, stick layout, everything like that is all personal preference. If you're like me and you have like a Scuff or a Battlebeaver or like an aim controller or someone like that, you typically probably don't want to use any of the other settings here. Some people like to play tactical, some people like to use, different settings like that, stick and move, things like that. If that's you, again, it's comfort. I'm doing this solely based on the fact that if you're a competitive type of player, you are probably going to be using a Scuff or a Battlebeaver or something like that, and these stick layouts are pretty much all going to be default for you as you use the back buttons for your inputs. Next important thing is dead zones. Now this is controller dependent. Right now my controller has stick drift on 0.04 and lower, so I have to use a little bit higher. What dead zones essentially are is how far you have to move your stick in that range before the input starts being registered. So the higher you put your dead zone, so if you go to 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, going up, it's more input you have to put into your controller before it registers your motion. So the lower you are, the better. Some controllers can be blessed with like absolutely no stick drift, but if you're like me, anywhere from 0.0, 0.03 to me and 0.05 are like okay ranges I can play in. Anything more than that and it's just moving all over the place and it starts to mess just mentally with me a little bit. But it isn't the end of the world. You want your dead zone as low as you can. So yeah, keep your minimum input as low as you can and keep your max input on 1. That's, standard, how you want to keep it. Now, like I said, for sensitivity, it is all personal preference. If you come from that background of competitive COD or something, you're typically going to be on a lower sensitivity setting. Each COD is different. And Warzone is also different from competitive COD as well, but anywhere from sort of the 4 or 5 up into the 8 or 9 range is pretty typical if you've played comp COD before. If you haven't, use what you're comfortable with. So I play 7-7. Normally on competitive CODs I would play maybe 6-6 or something like that, but I turn up a little bit for Warzone just because of the way the game is. You're so fluid with the movement, sometimes you need to be a little bit quicker. Having said that, I do typically play 0.8 ADS sense for every, rifle like scope or sight, sniper sight, whatever. I play 0.8, brings it down just that little bit. I sometimes play 1, but 0.8 is my typical one. Keeps you, accurate all the time, and that's just what I'm comfortable with using. Now into some of the more actual broken settings to try out. Dynamic, since it's been introduced, is one of the most broken aim response curve type things ever. I don't know why they've added this, but it's so powerful. If you aren't currently using it, get it on, stick dynamic on, and start using it. Standard is pretty much what the old ones used to be on like a lot of the older CODs. And I know it says aim assist standard here as well. Different settings completely. Ignore that. The aim response curve type, like it says, reverse S-curve mapping for fine aim rate control. It sounds like waffle. It kind of is waffle, but you wouldn't believe how broken it really is on just sort of tracking and staying on the target. So, moving on. I play without vibrations and my controller has the rumbles removed anyway. Again, personal preference, but I like to have it disabled. Just keeps you a little bit more focused on what's going on. You're not having to feel extra inputs in your hands. Aim assist standard. I think trying to change this with anything else isn't going to be worth it. Focusing and precision just feel way too weird for me to use. And if you just want the best controller settings, stick to the standard stuff. Don't stray too far from the path and you'll be alright. Scale aim assist with FOV is one that's been a bit of a hot topic in the recent sort of year or so. I think the consensus now is that if you're on a high FOV, if you're on like 110 plus, you should play with it disabled. If you're on anything lower, you should probably play with it enabled. I think most Warzone players, obviously on PC, are going to be on 120, between 110 and 120. So make sure that's disabled for you, just to, trying to go for best controller settings here, aren't we? So keep it disabled for the most part for most people. Weapon mounting, stuff like that, again, is all what you're used to if you play Modern Warfare. The preferences from that. ADS, everything hold. Use and reload behavior, use contextual tap. Just makes things easier so that, you know, when you are using like a loadout, for example, you have to hold rather than tap it, and to reload and stuff like that. It's all priority, whichever one is there, and it just chooses the better option for you in that moment, essentially. If you're in a position where you can pick up a gun, or to reload, or to do whatever, it does whatever's best for you in that situation. Armor plate behavior is another good one. Make sure you have it on apply 1. This means that, you know, you're not stuck in the animation of applying all your armor plates. You can apply 1 and then go chow if you need to. You don't always need 3 plates on to go and you know, chow someone or anything. Sometimes it can really mess you up if you are. Even still with apply 1, I still get caught playing sometimes when I shouldn't. Like, you know, I've tried to cancel it, it's just not doing it. If you have it on apply all, you get caught out all the time, and it is a real pain. So finally onto like the last few settings, and there's one controversial one that we need to take a look at, and I say it's controversial only in the sense that competitive people, especially in the COD scene, look down on this a little bit, but it's for Warzone, you know, maybe for more casual people. There's no rules against it in Warzone as well. So anyway, automatic sprint, automatic tac sprint. So in competitive COD it is GA, which is gentleman agreement, so people don't use it. Even some tournaments now in competitive COD ban this, so you can't use it. Even the LAN that was happening at Sheffield recently had it banned as well. If you are like me and you don't go to LAN, you don't play competitive COD or whatever, if you play Warzone, there is no bans, there are no rules against this. Automatic tac sprint. A lot of people use this. Seriously, a lot of people run it. It just makes everything so much easier. The main reason that I use it personally is that I don't ruin controllers with it. Back in the day on older CODs, I used to fly through scuff controllers. I think every year I'd probably go through maybe 2 or 3 if I played the entire year, which to some people isn't a lot, but to others, I mean, that's, you know, 300, 400, 500 pounds worth of equipment. And if I had this setting back in the day, or if we all had this setting back in the day, I think we would have been using it a lot. Spending 400 or 500 pounds on controllers over a year isn't really ideal. Ever since I've been using this, which I've had since Cold War came out, I have only had to use one controller, one Battlebeaver, and it's blessed me completely. I would recommend using ATS. If you are normally sprinting with disabled, you're using normal sprint. You left stick in once to normal sprint, double stick into tac sprint. If you're used to that, carry on using that. If you are, you know, on the fence though and think, oh, maybe I should try this out, do try it out. It does make things a little bit easier. There's less to think about, and you know, you're not as worried about your controller breaking. If you want to increase the longevity of your controller, try it out. And that is pretty much it for the in-game settings now. So the next thing we're going to do is go through some of the Windows options that you can change, and also looking at some of the software that, you know, you can mess about with. Really quick, I just want to make sure that you guys are subscribed to the channel with notifications turned on. If you aren't already, hit that big red button down below and click the bell icon just so you don't miss any of my uploads. Okay, back to the video. So now that we're in Windows, we're going to be looking at 2 bits of software that people use called DS4 Windows and HIDUSBF by Lord of Mice. Basically, DS4 Windows is like a bit of a remapper. You can check readings on your controller. We'll go through all of that in a minute. And HIDUSBF is the overclock that you want to use for your controller. If you're on an Xbox controller, I believe they already are overclocked, you know, as soon as you plug them into Windows. If you're on DualShock 4 or, you know, PS4, 5 controllers, you probably need to overclock it. So let's go into DS4 Windows and let me talk you through it. So Google it, DS4 Windows, the first one that pops up. You want to come on here, get it downloaded straight away, and you'll be greeted with this. Plug your controller in and you'll be here. You want to go to profiles, you need to select your default, and here you go with your controller. The main thing that I want to be looking at when we come into here is the controller readings. So you'll notice in the top left here it says input delay 0.5 milliseconds. So my controller is currently overclocked right now. And when you do the overclock in Lord of Mice, in the HIDUSBF, when we go through that, it probably will before that, say for you, maybe 5 milliseconds, maybe 10 if you're on a bit of an older controller. We'll bring it down to 0.5 and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. DS4 Windows is a really good tool though, because you can map different buttons to do different things, which can be really useful. There are some naughty things that people do on competitive COD where they do anti-recoil. I wouldn't recommend doing that, especially if you play competitive COD, because it gets picked up easily. People know when you don't have recoil in your gun. So, but it can be used to remap different buttons though, rather than doing it in game. And for reading your controller settings as well, you know, it's really good. I have a weird one with it where I feel like it gives me extra aim assist, and I think that's just me being an idiot, but the game sometimes messes me up, and ever since I've had this installed and on, I feel like I've had better aim assist, and overall my aim's just been a little bit smoother. So I don't know what that's to do with, but yeah. Get DS4 Windows, just to make sure that you can double check your controller readings at a minimum anyway for when we do the overclock. Speaking of the overclock, let's go look at that now. So after you've downloaded HIDUSBF from here, what you want to do is you want to click on the .zip file and then go down here and click download. You'll be greeted with this. Make sure that you've got all devices selected, and what you're looking for here is if you're on a DualShock 4 controller or whatever, it will say headset earphone and it'll be wireless controller. The main thing you want to look at here is filter and rate. You want filter on yes and rate on 1000, and I'm going to show you how you do that now. Essentially what you do is you select the device, you click filter on device, and you change this option that will be default on 250 I believe, or 500. Select that to 1000, click install service and just unplug your controller and replug it in, and it'll appear up again as 1000. After you've done that, you can boot back up into your DS4 Windows, which I'm doing now, and you'll be able to see the input delay will be lower. It honestly will be probably 5 to 10 seconds before this, and after it'll be 0.5. It will be a little bit more difficult to get used to because you are playing on a less input delay. It'll feel a little bit strange, but stick with it. Honestly, it's the best thing for you, and that is pretty much it for the Windows software settings. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video. I know it's a little bit of a longer one, but I figured controller settings are going to be another hot topic to do after doing the FPS and the how to get better at Warzone type videos. So if you want to go check them out, like I said, there'll be cards in the top right, or you can watch the end screen. That'll have both videos there. Click on them, go through them. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Make sure you leave likes on all the videos, and make sure you subscribe to the channel because we're doing a lot more of these type of informative videos. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.